Hello everyone, my name is Onno and I am the R6 Analyst developer. Exactly 2 years ago, the R6 Analyst app first launched on the Overwolf App Store. Just like last year, I wanted to make a new questions and answers video to kind of like celebrate that anniversary and answer your questions. The app has now had over 230,000 people install it, which is well over double of what it was last year, so that's absolutely insane. I posted on the official R6 Analyst Discord asking for questions. Bunch of questions came in, so we're going to go through all of those today. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into it. First question by OG Nova: what change would you most like to see in the game? I think Siege is in an excellent state right now. It's a lot of fun to play. I think the meta is really good. It's very diverse. People can play pretty much any operator they want. I feel like the two biggest issues in the game right now, in my personal opinion, are the onboarding of new players and the toxicity of the community. And I think the devs have addressed both of those issues quite well in the year 7 plans, like the video that they launched at the start of the season. And it seems like they have several features in the works aimed at both of these issues. For onboarding new players, they got like tutorials and various other like small things, but there's no like really big full scenario based like tutorial playthrough or something, which is what I would think would be best. One of the biggest issues with this game is that it's now well over 6 years old. It's quite complex, and getting new people interested in the game is really difficult because there's just so many operators, so many things to learn. I understand that, you know, with an older game like that, with a limited budget, and with also the pressure to create new content, it's very difficult to focus so much on onboarding new players. So I understand why it's not happening, but I think that will be a really good investment into the game. And on the other side, with regards to like the toxicity of the community, they've announced a lot of work into the reputation system, making that more publicly well known to the players as well. I'm hopeful that that will help stamp out the toxicity. But at the moment, it's more of like a I'll believe it when I see it sort of situation. So yeah, we'll see. Next question by Syntax: what data is shared with your server, even if it's not shared with other app users in the end, and what is only kept on my computer? Well, basically, just assume anything that happens in a ranked or an unranked game, all that data is collected and stored server side. That's not true, obviously, because that would be insane, an insane amount of data. But what I'm storing, it kind of depends day to day, and new information comes to light, new things I can track, things I cannot track anymore. It kind of depends on the game patch and what I'm interested in, and really, you know, how much money I'm willing to spend on the storage of the database. So I can't really give you like an itemized list because it's a lot of stuff and it's very complex. But yeah, ranked and unranked really are the game modes I'm focusing on. And then I have a really clear cutoff where, at least like in terms of like custom match, I store absolutely nothing server side, because there's been a lot of requests for like privacy, in terms of like privacy to not look at custom match at all. So none of that is sent over the server. It's all just stored on your local machine. And then quick match, team deathmatch, events, like newcomer. At the moment, I'm not storing any of that either. I did it before, and it was costing me a lot of money, and not a lot of people were interested in it, so I stopped doing that, and I deleted all the stuff server side. And I'm not storing anything at the moment anymore for those game modes either. There is an option in the app. You can go in the top right menu and click on privacy policy, and there's a little bit more information with regards to, you know, your data and the privacy. So yeah, feel free to look at that. Next question: are there any particular features you'd really like to add and think might be possible, but you haven't quite worked out just yet? I mean, so many features that I want to add, and that I think are possible. I mean, I have infinite ideas, and it's just a matter of like prioritizing and finding the time. And it's been a long time since I wrote a new developer roadmap, and I really should get on that. The last one I wrote is months ago now, and I think I had like 9 features on the roadmap that I wanted to add, and I already implemented I think 6 of them. So there's 3 of them that I'm still working on. So I'll go through those real quick now. So drone economy tracking. So I sort of have the system in place for that, but I stopped working on it because the whole backend situation. I had a database running on Amazon Web Services, and that was costing me just stupid amounts of money. So I stopped all the work on drone economy tracking because that requires a fair amount of database work. So I stopped that until the whole database system was moved over to a new environment, which it has now. So I'm now free to start working on drone economy tracking again. So that's definitely very high on the list to get to in the next couple weeks, actually. Um, the most complex part of that is really how can I show it to the end user, to you guys, the app users? Like, do I need to show it like just in general over a season how well you're doing? Is it like per round, per match, per drone? Exactly how granular or detailed do you want it? And how complex or easy can I make it so that you don't just get a bunch of data thrown your way, you get more like information or like knowledge or like tips on how to improve your droning. There is still in the app, if you go to settings and beta features, you can still turn on like the drone coach, but that's still a work in progress, and I think it's very useful from time to time. But if you leave it on for too long, it just gets annoying, really, because it's a pop-up at the end of every round telling you how well you were droning. So another feature that I really need to work on is the map stats, which is the little section in the app. In the left menu, there's a map stats section. So currently, that's one of the oldest sections of the app. That was there at the very start, like in the first couple months of the app, and I haven't really touched it since. So it's in dire need of an upgrade. And really the reason I haven't worked on it is because I need to completely rewrite it from scratch. And that's just boring work because I'm doing the same thing over again, just in a slightly different way. So it's not really interesting to do. It's just something that is necessary to do in order to improve on it. So yeah, I'll have to get to that really soon. At the moment, the current it does what it does well, but the current issue with it is it only looks at ranked matches, and ideally I want it to be able to filter on at least unranked as well, right? And it's not as detailed as I would like. There are some graphs there, but you can't really like filter on those. You can't really see more information than what is available. I want it to be that you can really dive deep into, for example, a single map with a single bomb site, stuff like that. So yeah, I have that data. It's not very easily accessible right now. So that's definitely in the works. And then the last thing is really like coaching features, which is really broad, and I still don't have a good idea of what I want to do, where I want to go with that. But yeah, it's really the holy grail of where I want to get to, where what I've done in the past 2 years is the app is now generally running very smoothly in terms of collecting data and turning that data into information that you can use in your gameplay. But I really want to turn that information into like knowledge and understanding for the app user. And that last step, that's hard. And that's what I want to go to. I want to have an experience where you play a couple matches, you turn off the game, and then the app comes up and says like, hey, you played 4 matches in this session, and this is what went better than average, like you're droning, or you used the utility for Capcan better or whatever, and this is where I think you should focus on next, or hey, next time you play, if you play smoke, try and stay alive for more than 1 minute, use your toxic babes, stuff like that. Like, have more as if you had a coach on your team basically telling you like, hey, these are the sections where you're not functioning optimally and where you can like focus on to improve. Because I've found, at least in my own gameplay, that if I boot up the game and I have in mind like, okay, today this is the thing I'm going to focus on, like on my attacks, I'm going to make a plan before the prep phase is done. Or in my defense today, I'm gonna focus on roaming because I'm generally the anchor, so I need to practice my roaming, stuff like that. To have like bullet points to focus on, I think that could really be fun to do as like a challenge to yourself, and also be really educational and help you improve your gameplay and rank up to better ranks. So next question: if you could remove one operator from the game, which one would it be and why? There's not a single operator in the game that I would remove if I had the option to. I think the game is really well balanced right now, and I think all operators have um, their niches. Like any operator can be useful in a particular situation. Some are more generally useful, and some are more niche. Um, so yeah, given the choice, I wouldn't remove any. But I think maybe the question is more like if you had to remove an operator, which operator would you remove if you had to remove one? It will probably be either Clash or Ashe. So Clash, I think would be a good choice to remove because she's quite frustrating to play against unless you bring like the correct lineup to face her. And in my opinion, and that's my opinion, she can be quite a boring operator to play because either the enemies don't know how to play against you, and so then all you do is just zap them until they die, or slow them down enough so that you just win the round on time. And if they do know how to play against you, you generally die really quickly, or you can't really play your utility anymore, at which point you just become a really slow operator with a bad gun. So yeah, there's not really all that much she adds to the game, except when you really build a strat around her. So yeah, that's why I would remove her maybe, if I had to remove somebody. And the other option, Ashe, I think I'd consider removing Ashe just because she's completely inferior to other operators. Like you can play Ayana or Sophia or Finka, and you would get pretty much the exact same destruction utility as Ashe brings. But in addition to that, the destruction utility is more lethal, and or in addition to that, they have an additional unique ability. Like Ayana can she has 2 grenades and a gun 6, and then she can also have free drones the whole round. Finka, she has 2 grenades, and also she can heal the whole team 3 times. So I think that might change in the future. I think like for sure Ayana is probably going to lose the gun 6, but at least in the moment, I feel like Ashe is just, if you're playing Ashe, why not just play Ayana, Zofia, or Finka and get more utility, like more bang for your buck? So that's why I would at the moment consider maybe removing Ashe. Next question. Are there any plans to partner with FaceIT or Ubisoft to make this tool something that is eventually standardized across the competitive landscape of Siege, from a spectator's point of view, to capture stats for matches? That's a long sentence. Um, well, um, well, with regards to working with Ubisoft, you'd be surprised at what's been going on behind the scenes on that. I can't go into too much detail because I'm honestly not 100% sure what is and isn't covered by some non-disclosure agreements that I signed. We're talking about like almost a year ago or well over a year ago in some situations. But yeah, long story short, I've been contacted multiple times by several official like national leagues run by Ubisoft on several occasions to discuss building like a bespoke version of R6 Analyst for them to track the stats for the matches, and also so they can show real-time stats during their broadcasts. I've been in multiple meetings. I've had negotiations and contracts drawn up, and then every time when it looked like the deal was signed and we were good to go and I was happy to start working, at the last minute, like Ubisoft just pulled the rug out from under the whole thing, and without further explanation just said like, yeah, sorry, the higher ups at Ubisoft said no. So obviously that's very frustrating. So I think at this point it's very clear that although the actual people on the ground that working for Ubisoft or working for the production companies that are working in the name of Ubisoft on these large productions, they're interested in upgrading their stats and all that stuff, and they see a benefit in maybe working with me or somebody like me that's confident with the Overwolf integration. But I think the higher ups at Ubisoft are just vehemently opposed to that idea, and I can understand sort of where they're coming from because it's a third party, and there's various worries in there. So I'm not mad about it, but it's certainly it has been a frustrating part of the past like year and a half. Um, and it's not something I'm looking to repeat, to be honest. So I don't think I'll go back and spend more time in that if they get back to me, unless it's very clear that this time will be different. So yeah, that's working with Ubisoft, and then working with FaceIT. FaceIT has gotten into contact with me again several times, several different people, several different meetings, and each time at some point they just start ghosting me. And I don't think that's intentional. I think it's just the people that have that responsibility or that job, they get different responsibilities, they move on. There doesn't seem to be a lot of budget or personnel working at FaceIT that can actually work this out or work on this. So yeah, I don't think there's on their end really uh, potential for that. Not at the moment, anyway. And then just with regards to the OVulve integration itself, at least for like the last couple months, it's been relatively unstable. Like, I mean, it's good for like ranked, unranked, all that stuff, but I wouldn't want to like rely on the OVulve integration for like official match data right now, especially in custom match. It can be quite unstable and iffy, and I think at the moment for spectator mode it's completely broken. So I think that's definitely a high risk that's involved in that as well. Next question: if you could add one operator to the game, what unique ability would they have? Oh man, there's so many great operator ideas floating around there by other people, and I'm sure the Ubisoft devs are working on some really fun new ones as well. Um, so I'll go a bit more out of the box maybe, and I think I know for a fact that my idea is currently impossible with the technical limitations that are in the game. But it could be a fun pipe dream to talk about. So I would really like to see an operator that's more focused on actual, like emphasizing the team gameplay and allowing you to like leverage working together with your team as a coordinated effort. So I envision like a defender that can set up a surveillance station, after which all the defending operators can see each other's point of view, like have sort of a picture-in-picture camera in your heads-up display of your teammates' perspective, like similar to how SWAT 4 worked or how Ready or Not works right now. I know at the moment that picture-in-picture is not an option in the Siege game engine. I think primarily because the older generation consoles just can't handle that. So a potential other idea would be to have like the different um, points of view of your teammates to be various additional cameras that are added to like your mobile phone. Um, Even after death, then those cameras could still be rolling, so that where you died, there's like a hidden camera added. And then we could have like where the surveillance station is created. If you melee that as an attacker, then the cameras, like the options, are removed. I think that could be depending on like the loadout of the operator and whether they have to like actively station at the surveillance station. That could be very overpowered or underpowered. I don't know, but it's a way to like leverage the heads-up display, like the actual HUD of the game, as a unique ability, which I think they've had to in the past because the HUD was built in on like really old tech, and they've really upgraded it all at the end of last season. So it's definitely a possibility now. It's an out there idea, but I like it. All right, next question. What feature would you like to add to the R6 Analyst app but lack the experience, time, or money to implement? Um, so this is sort of similar to the previous question earlier about like what do you want to add next. Um, there aren't really any features that I'm not implementing because of a lack of experience. Um, to be honest, features that I can't build because of lack of experience are probably more likely to be implemented because it means that there is a reason for me to learn something new, to acknowledge, to like gather new knowledge, and I like that. So that I like that challenge and learning something. So that at the end of it, I don't have just built a new feature for the app. I have also spent my time learning something. So that would actually probably prioritize that feature. So that's not really a limiting factor. And then in terms of money and time, I think that's the same thing for me. Um, because any time I'm spending on the app is time I'm not spending earning money a different way. Um, and spending money on the app generally pays for itself back. I mean, it has been an issue in the past, but not anymore at the moment. So really, the limiting factor is time. So then it doesn't come back down to like, okay, this feature would take me so long to build, I'm not going to do it. It's more like I want to get an update out every couple of weeks at least, right? Ideally one every week, and that's a pace that I haven't been able to keep up with the last couple months. But I want to get more features out faster, which means the features themselves need to be a little bit smaller, right? Smaller chunks and new updates sooner, so that there's always something new to check out. And in order to do that, I need to prioritize the features in such a way that I can finish one and work on the next one, finish that one, work on the next one, and then at the same time maybe have a bigger feature that requires more work over time, right? And I've been pretty bad at that for the past couple months. I've had a couple large features in the works and not really smaller ones that I can sprinkle in. So that's really, yeah, that's really the factor I'm looking into now on how to prioritize these things. Is okay, I want a little dabble of this, a little dabble of that, and have some small features, and then have a big one at the same time. All right. Will you partner with Reputation.gg like our 6tab did? Man, I certainly hope so. I have been in contact with the people behind Reputation.gg, and from what I can tell, their intent is to have like an API published that I will be able to use and implement in my app. So it's definitely the plan to at least seriously consider that, depending on like what the API exactly does and what the data is that they generate. I'm a bit hesitant to have like community-driven content in my app because that puts a lot of um, focus on me as well to make sure there's nothing like illegal in there, nothing really toxic in there. So that's a bit of an issue. But for the most part, yeah, I'd happily do that, and I think it'd be a really valuable additional tool. So yeah, that'd be cool. Once it's available, I think that'd be cool. Next question, it's another long one. Are there any interesting trends or tidbits you've run into as you've played with and studied the sorts of stats R6 Analyst looks at, like team comp distribution or effectiveness across different ranks? And do you think any of them might find their way into the app someday? Yeah, so I mean, most of like the dabbling I'm doing with like the actual data is either researching like large new features for the app, or just doing like the operator utility stats that I've been throwing on Twitter in Twitter threads a little bit. But one thing I'm thinking of, I haven't started yet, is I haven't researched this yet, but I wanna see if there's a way to like classify players based on their account stats into the different types of players, like roamers, anchors, IGLs, aggressive players, clutch masters, like different like prototypes of types of players. And my hypothesis would be that there's like a likely like ideal team compositions of these types of various types of players. So I would be interested in just testing that hypothesis and see if that's true. And I think it really depends on the ranks as well. The problem with this and most of these sorts of like thought experiments is that generally they're not really, the end result of them is not really actionable to like the you guys, the users of the app. Like if the app says like, oh, you need one of this type of person, one of this type of person, at the end of the day, like, what are you going to do with that? You're not going to stop playing with your friends, or if you're going to find new people to play with, you can't really say like, oh yeah, I need one more anchor and then two more clutch masters or something. Like how do you classify these people without knowing them beforehand, right? So yeah, doing this sort of stuff, it's interesting from a meta perspective, but as features of the app, it's not really interesting because it's not actionable. And that's a tough balance to make. Like how much time am I spending on these? Oh, that's cool to know, but it's not really useful in the long run. So yeah, that's a tough one. Next question: will this project ever be open source? That's a hard one. Like I honestly, I don't think it's very likely that it will be open source. I really do admire open source development, but it is just in complete opposition of like how I work, how I program. I'm old school programmer. I don't really use frameworks of any kind. I'm self-taught, so my code is, let's say it's uniquely written by me. It's not very friendly towards other developers, or so that other people can decipher it. Um, it would require a lot of work on my end to get a project out there that is like open source friendly in a useful manner, and it would be a lot of like rewriting current code, which, like I said before in an earlier question, is like boring work. It's not work that I'm really interested in doing. So yeah, skipping all that absolutely like mind-numbingly boring work, I'm a fan of. Um, so I'd rather focus on like adding new features to the app, keeping building the app, and yeah. So at least for the moment, like I'd rather just happily keep on chugging along as is than change this project to be open source. Like I can, what I'm saying is like if I throw the source code as it is right now online, I would be extremely embarrassed by how rough it is, and people would be like, it would be useless pretty much because people won't be able to tell like what anything does. All the knowledge is in here and it's not in like comments in the code, which is, I guess, that could be a problem. But yeah. Are you ever going to make your own website similar to like R6 Tab or R6 Tracker? Yeah, probably. It's not something that's like high on the list generally because it like I mean it comes to mind occasionally, but the main reason I haven't done it yet is because the alternatives like R6 Tab, R6 Tracker, R6 Stats, they already are like serviceable or good at what they do. So me spending a fair amount of time building another one of those, it requires me to have like an idea of what can I do better, or what can I do different to add to that, right? To add to that conversation to make people think like, oh, you know what, I'm going to use the R6 Analyst website instead of R6 Tracker or R6 Tab. And at the moment, I don't really feel like I have that enough to warrant looking into, building a website version. I'd rather spend that time working on the app more. But yeah, I do believe like in the future, the idea is to get a website version going. Um, and one of the reasons why is also because on the website I can run ads and I can make money off of that, and Overwolf won't take a portion of that. So there is a financial incentive to building a website version as well. And those were all the questions. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you learned something. If you have any other questions, please jump into the Discord and ask. That's really the best place to go. I am on Twitter as well at R6 Analyst app, but I'm not as responsive there in the DMs, so best to jump into the Discord. I also stream on Twitch occasionally, so follow me there at twitch.tv/R6Analyst app. And I think that's it. So I guess see you next year for the 3rd anniversary. And yeah, have a nice day and good luck. Have fun.